Welcome back to the Bruderhof YouTube channel, and we are on chapter 45 of Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. The verse today is Matthew 7:6, one that's probably familiar to people hearing it in many different contexts. Here we go. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. And as you know, the authors who are excerpted in this chapter write, this is kind of surprising language coming from Jesus, who says, the Father in heaven sends his rain on the just and the unjust and evil and good alike. And it probably is going to take some thinking, a bit harder thinking on our part to discern what Jesus is getting at here. What were your thoughts?
So I think that it was helpful for me as well to kind of go back and dig into the historical context of what was said here, because that little aphorism apparently was a common Hebrew saying, like, don't go and waste something that's not going to be appreciated by the recipient. And I think that's kind of like a natural way that we understand it right off the bat, like surface level. But the authors here challenge that a little bit. The first one said, was talking about how pigs can't, like anyone who knows anything about farming or raising pigs knows that trying to feed them something that they can't ingest, it's not a good plan. And also the nature of pigs is to just attack. So good intentions are not necessarily helpful at all in trying to deliver the gospel. The other author talks about how before we try to deliver the message of the gospel, which is, how they interpret the pearls, we have to be willing to put in the preparatory work. We have to be willing to help people have the academic, social tools to be able to be receptive, linguistic language, all these things that help us take in the gospel. We have to be able to lend people a hand with that before we can expect Jesus's words to sink in or be treasured and valued as pearls would be. So I thought that was really good points, but I guess for me too, just the overall theme that kind of I can't help thinking about in reading this chapter is the limits of evangelism. Like, what is that truly, and what's our task with after reading the gospel and trying to understand Jesus' message to us and being struck by that? Like, we can't be selfish about it, obviously, but how do we bring that to others? And it's not in a way of looking at people like pigs or dogs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not.
So
yeah, I think what you say is 100% right. Certainly it's not a matter of looking down on other people or saying other people are like lesser beings. That's not the point at all. It's more a question of, if I'm hungry, or if I'm in emotional distress, or if, parts of my life are really not working, I may not respond well to,
yes.
offerings of insights from the gospel. And I think the best evangelism is the lives we lead, how we model, how we follow Jesus, how we seek to imitate Christ in our lives. It's not in saying words that then don't have the weight of action behind them. I think we most often can take in a message, can take in something when it's in the context of community, when it's in the context of relationship with other people, mm-hmm. and not just simply preaching.
Yeah. And isn't it remarkable, like, as we reach the end of this book here, pretty much everything Jesus says, it first points to us looking within ourselves and trying to change what's not of God in ourselves. And I mean, that theme continues right on today with this verse from Matthew about like what can we change in ourselves so that we can share those pearls in a way that they're useful and can actually help people.
Right. Because pigs, dogs, again in historical context, were seen as unclean, right? But what is unclean, and so in that way, not ready to take in or receive the gift. But what is unclean, can be cleaned, can be brought into community, into relationship. And that's work that, as you say, we as people who seek to follow Jesus, that's work we can do. That's what we can do for each other. So it's like many of Jesus' teachings, there's so much there. And it's easy to sort of fall into sort of simplistic or simplistic ways of thinking about these things. But if we really think deeply, reflect, it should, as Dorian said, make us think about how we're living our lives.
And the good news is, I don't think we're ever supposed to settle into pat answers on any of these interpretations. I think that is the power of the gospel, is provoking, and it's constantly making us think and challenging ourselves. So it's a good thing.
It's endlessly fascinating. And more than that, life-changing, life-altering. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.